Okay, so hey guys, what's up? And welcome back to my subscribers. Today, I'm excited to be talking to another cool cat who goes by the pseudonym Ted Lasso with the awesome cowboy hat. Ted, do you want to introduce yourself real quick?
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much for inviting me on here to talk about NFTs. So my pseudonym online is Ted Lasso, after the fantastic Apple Plus TV show that everyone should be watching. And yeah, I'm originally from London. I moved to LA. Have always been extremely involved in art from a young age. And as soon as NFTs came about and I started to find out about them, I've been hooked ever since.
Nice. So what got you into NFTs aside from like the art aspect that you came from?
Yeah, so the art aspect, the art part of my life has always been a huge part of my life. And I found NFTs, like most people I assume did, through cryptocurrency originally. About a year and a half ago, I discovered Bitcoin through one of my friends who sat me down at a party and talked about, how it was going to change the world. Invested a little bit of money at the time. And then when I started looking into it, understanding how blockchain works, understanding about how transactions are going to work in the future, the blockchain, I was just hooked. I believe that people call it being red pilled in reference to the Matrix. I was red pilled pretty quickly into crypto. And so for about six to 8 months, I just traded crypto and learned as much as I could about it, learned about charting, learned about loads of different projects that were coming up and how they were going to change the future of blockchain or whatever they were planning to do, and just got really, really into it. And then obviously it's like a big Venn diagram, crypto and NFTs overlap so much, and especially on Twitter. I spent the majority of my time on crypto Twitter to begin with, and you just start seeing overlaps with NFTs. And then I remember one day I saw a cool cat, and I couldn't really quite believe it. I'd seen the apes, and the apes were way too expensive for me at the time. And I saw this cool cat, and I was like, I want that. That is what I want. I just love the art style. It's just so vibrant, so pretty. Klon does an amazing job, the artist, for cool cats. I think it resonates across the board with anyone who looks at it. People find little characteristic traits that are relevant to them, and yeah, it's just, I've been obsessed ever since, really.
So you kind of already knew what cool cats were when you got into them. When did you get in?
I got in, I would say, probably about 2.5 months ago now. So I got in 2 weeks after launch. That's probably the best way
Oh,
to
wow.
describe it. So I mean, they started to started to climb in price, and I actually had to work my way up portfolio wise to buy a cool cat. And so yeah, I just traded a few NFTs here and there to flip my way to a cool cat.
What price point did you get in for cool cats?
I bought my first two cool cats. I bought rarer ones first. So the first cool cat I bought was 0.88, and I bought a pink one for 1.1, and it was just an easy choice at the time. You could see the passion in the community rather. When I talk about NFTs and how they're changing the world, it mainly comes down to community at the end of the day. Obviously the art is a massive part of it, but what drives sales, what drives projects forward, what drives revenue is the community. And as you well know, as a cool cat, being in the cool cat community is truly fantastic. How have you found it in the cool cat Discord?
I've been blown away by the community in the Discord. Normally community has been such a overthrown buzzword in the NFT space, and it's kind of like super hyped up. But when I started interacting with the cool cats community, I was like, oh, this is actually really wholesome community, because there's been tons of Discord channels that I checked out that were a little toxic and super shilly, and there were similar 10,000 generated PFP projects. So it was a good surprise for me to interact with the cool cats, and then not only Discord, but also, the Twitter community. But it was all a complete accident too, because I got into cool cats around like 0.3, and I had no idea, because I'm just a big cat person. And as a cat person, you can never own too many cat things. And I was just like on OpenSea looking at all the different cats. At first, I wanted a crypto kitty because I'd heard about them back in like, they were big in 2017, right? Like the last meteorite. And then I was browsing and I saw cool cats and I was like, oh, well, this one's like cheaper than crypto kitties and it's cute. And that's pretty much the only two reasons that I had for going into it. So it was more luck for me. Like I wasn't really aware of what I'd stumbled upon, as much as like you were when you got into cool cats.
Well, I think that that's, indicative of what cool cats are like. You didn't quite know what it was, but you liked it, and I think that that's at the heart of this project, is it's just how accessible they are, how lovely they are to look at, how easy they are to peruse through, to browse. And I think that there's something in the art style that Con has made there, which makes it so accessible for everyone. People who are dog person, people who are cat person, it doesn't necessarily matter, because it's cute and it works. And I think that just to go back to what you were saying before about other discords and other communities being extremely toxic, I do often worry that new people being onboarded into the NFT space find themselves in toxic communities and then get a negative idea of what the
Absolutely.
NFT space is about. And I think that it's something that we all need to battle as members of the community, and helping onboard people to avoid scams, to avoid pump and dumps, to avoid schemes, to avoid manipulation. It's something that we'll need as a community, and if it's ever going to be regulated, if it's ever going to be accepted widespread, we need to find a way to combat
Yeah, I mean,
scams.
to add to that, can we talk about this time NFT drop that happened this morning?
I'd love to, yeah.
That was insane. I knew I wasn't going to be able to get in, okay? But being the optimistic person that I am, I set an alarm, went on at 9 a.m. I watched the countdown. I connected my wallet. I was just trying to get one. And so for those of you that don't know what the time drop was, basically Time Magazine did their own collaborative NFT drop, Build Back Better, or Build Community Better, that they had how many artists commissioned?
I think it's over 100. Let me just check quickly.
Yeah, it was like several hundred
Timepieces.
artists, and a few of them were really well known in the NFT space. You had like Fuck Render, you had Justin Aversano. And so I knew this was going to be big, not just because of time, but also because the artists and their networks. And the gas wars were insane. And to me, it was so shocking that the team didn't consider like other alternatives, because we've had a year of gas wars. We've learned these lessons over and over again. And it's frustrating to see something that had huge potential to reach a lot more community and diversity, and it kind of being overrun with bots and more of the funds going to miners than the artists themselves.
Yeah, it's extremely frustrating. And, unfortunately, the lesson you talk about, we've all learned this lesson in the last year. The lesson is getting more expensive to learn now. As we onboard more people into the NFT community, which we do every day, we see the unique wallets in OpenSea go up every single day. The gas wars are going to get worse because there's more people, more congestion on the network. And obviously, ETH 2.0, is one of those things that we're hoping fixes issues like this. But it is something that we need to. There's so much creativity in this space across the board that we need to figure out. And then people talking about Dutch auctions and whitelisting sales, stuff like that. And that's good, and that's a start. But there needs to be a better way to do this fairly. I mean, I'm not the person who has the answer to that question.
Yeah. Did you get one, or did you even try?
I didn't even try this time because it's not out of wanting to not wanting one, because I absolutely want one, and I love Keith Grossman. I love how he interacts in the Cool Cats Discord. He's been around for a while, and I think that time is so influential, so important. It's the magazine of a nation, and it has been for many years. And I think that this is overall bullish for the NFT space, of course, because
yes,
Time is an institution, and that just gives us more credibility. But you lose that credibility when we're fighting gas wars straight off the bat, especially when I don't want to say anything untoward, but the people who are running things should know better at this point.
Exactly. That's kind of like, I'm not personally hating on Keith Grossman or on Farouk or any of these people. I'm just saying, like, as a team, we expected better, because it's not like we're all new here, right? And they've been shouting out art blocks for some time. And if they looked at what art blocks has been trying to implement, they could have at least done some sort of Dutch auction model, or like you were saying, some kind of whitelisting. Parallel Alpha, they had good ways of distributing their cards this year without prompting these gas wars. And so it's such a huge oversight that it both, like, it's very disappointing, but also just surprising too. But yeah, I wish I had gotten one of the pieces, and I was watching them go for, easily 3x, more than 3x, like what, 0.1 to 3 point something on.
I think I saw 3.3 was the highest I saw it go.
Actually, somebody bought one for 20.
Oof.
Yeah. And there was a wallet, a 10 million wallet, that minted like 10 of them for, point or 1.2 or 2.1. And they paid about, I want to say 50 to 70,000 USD in gas alone.
That's
and
bizarre,
they're still up. They're still up in secondary.
Imagine ordering something online, right, from Amazon, and you order like a $50 ledger off Amazon, and then they go, actually, it's going to cost us $10,000 to send it to your house,
right?
Which is what's happening here. And it's bizarre. It's bizarre that it's part and parcel of the system. Like I'm a big fan of this other project called Toto is a Good Dog, which is a hand-drawn 3,000 profile picture NFT project by a Thai artist called CryptoPet. He draws them all himself, and he drops them for 0.015, all of them. And so to actually buy one on a drop, you end up paying 3 times the NFT price with gas wars as they are. And it's just going to shut out. It's going to shut out people who
want to get in, or at least push them to other blockchains, right? Like me personally, I started off on the Ethereum blockchain, and now I've been spending a lot more time looking at NFTs on other places like Solana before it broke, and Avax. So, I mean, I guess in that sense, it creates a more diverse variety of NFT blockchains. But at the same time, it does create this like socioeconomic hierarchy that crypto like was supposedly a solution for, right? But at the end of the day, you kind of feel that, well, the whales essentially are just going to be able to buy up whatever crypto they want. And then the people who are really in power can just print more fiat and buy up anything that they want. So it's just an interesting dynamic to see it being played out in a more mature way this cycle than in 2017.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it's an extremely good point. It's interesting to see, the rich always get richer. And I'm a big proponent of you need money to make money, spend money to make money, and this is what's happening here. You bought an ape at 0.1 and you sold it for 60 ETH. You've now got enough spending power to be a whale in that scenario. And this is what people do with regular markets all day long. They've been doing it for years and years and years. It's just interesting to see it creep in. I mean, it's not unsurprising. It's not surprising, sorry, but it is interesting to see it creep into what is supposed to be, the new wave of currency and how we interact, and like you say, empowering individuals to
be more decentralized.
To those things. To be more decentralized, exactly. I want to quickly hop back to what you're saying about other blockchains hosting NFTs. I'm really impressed with the way that NFTs are moving onto other blockchains. I think it's important, but I am also someone who genuinely believes that Ethereum is the home of NFTs, and it's Ethereum that needs to change rather than the NFTs that need to move. There's too much value. There's too much history. You're never going to be able to buy the first ever. You're never going to be able to buy a CryptoPunk unless it's on ETH. And so that's that's the key there. And I think that other chains are good, but what we'll need is a different solution, and whether that's maybe Harmony One, the crypto Harmony One creating a bridge, or someone else or some other company creating a bridge that helps us reduce fees that isn't Polygon.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. I mean, they've released Arbitrum and Optimism, but I don't really see the full functionality of that yet. And I think there's just a lot of bridges right now. I think people are starting to get confused with all the bridges, and especially when just bridging from Ethereum to anywhere else in the last few months, I would say, is like minimum $50-$60 in gas fees. And so I think it's a deterrent, first of all, but it's also kind of like, if you didn't have that much ETH to begin with, you're kind of just stuck, right? Like for me, I have a wallet where I staked Audius, and I don't want to keep just like feeding ETH into this wallet, but I am sort of forced to, because to do anything or to undo anything that I had in that wallet, now it's costing me hundreds of dollars to make a single transaction. And so, yeah, it's really frustrating. And they're, talking about all these layer 2 solutions, and then, migrating completely over to proof of stake next year. But that's next year. This space moves so fast. Next year is going to be like, it's going to feel decades later.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. It was supposed, you say it's next year, it was supposed to be this year. It got pushed back to next year. So we don't know, but I mean, at the end of the day, Ethereum is the home for NFTs for me personally, and it's Ethereum that needs to change. But in all honesty, we will not be able to onboard the rest of the world until these things get sorted out, because it's just ridiculous to, when I'm talking to someone or one of my friends who hasn't been initiated yet, or anything like that, trying to explain what gas fees are and why they're so expensive, while also concurrently trying to explain how this is the future of the world.
Right.
They can seem very contradictory at points.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Definitely.
I mean, I don't have the answer. I don't have the solution, but I sure hope someone does soon.
Well, next time let's call up Vitalik, add him to this call, and then we can all hash it out with him.
Exactly. Yeah, just get them on the phone. I'm pretty sure Stoner Cat's managed to get them on the phone.
I think he texted me yesterday. I'll just have to respond.
Yeah, your home is, yeah.
Yeah, we go way back, way back. I'm actually
Sure.
surprised that you are so relatively new to the crypto space in general, because I feel like most of the people that are very interactive in this community right now are people from at least 2017.
Yeah, it was something that I was always very, very interested in. I spent the last 7 years of my life in the British Army, and so I actually didn't get a chance to really look into it. It's something that I always thought about, and I was on a training course in 2017 when Bitcoin was hitting $10,000, and I was just like, this is going to be big, this is going to be huge. But it when you're wrapped up in an environment like that, you live a whole life, and there's very little time for you to explore things on your own. And so when I did leave and I moved over to LA, I just fell in down the rabbit hole, voluntarily, because it's something I've been so interested for a while. And it's a testament to YouTubers like yourself, out here educating people. I learned everything I know about cryptocurrency from Hashoshi, who is just one of the most fantastic crypto YouTubers for me. I'll credit him all day long. I actually got a follow from him off on Twitter, and I screamed like a little schoolgirl, really.
Yeah, he's great. I love his videos.
Yeah, he's really great. Him and just learning chart analysis from Coins Kid and some other people. It's the world. I am overly impressed with the wealth of resources that are available to people who want to learn about these things, and it's a testament to what you do. So I appreciate you and the rest of you guys on YouTube killing it.
Thank you. Yeah, there's so much to be learned on YouTube. I feel like I should have just gone to YouTube instead of to college. Like that's kind of the state of things right now. But when you mentioned Hashoshi, it was interesting because another reason that I wanted to start my own channel was everything that I was seeing on YouTube to like try and do my own research was so hypey. Like everything was urgent, warning, borderline conspiracy theories, kind of like the government's out to get your soul, you must buy Bitcoin, or like Bitcoin's going to crash in the next 5 seconds. And these are the 5 altcoins that you have to buy that will 1,000x, and it was just, I felt like everything I clicked was just clickbait, and it was just all this hype and all this FOMO and this urgency. And I was like, okay, we need to like calm down and kind of go back to basics a little bit. Like, not a lot of YouTubers were talking about some of the fundamentals. They were just doing these price predictions, these wild price predictions. Some of them did like a bit of TA, even though I didn't agree with all of the TA. And then on top of that, it was like super male dominated. I'm like, this can't be that hard. Like, why why are not more women in this space? It's a very creative space that really relies on artists and creators just as much as developers, especially in the NFT space. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to do this myself, right? And I'm kind of glad I did, because it's honestly like, it's opened up my view to so many other things and just like different types of communities. Because I'm forced to interact, right? Like, if I want to research a project, I need to go in the Discord and talk to people there and join their Twitter spaces and reach out to devs and mods if I have questions, which I do. So it kind of like forced me to be more interactive. And I think that's kind of how we connected on Twitter, was because I noticed that you interacted a lot with the same profiles that I was interacting with, and you were really consistent in like responding to my tweets, and it just felt kind of organic. And I was like, oh, this is cool, because I noticed your Twitter was started this year around the time that I started my Twitter. So I was like, okay, and he's a cool cat. Like, I think we need to talk.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you reaching out. And yeah, I mean, I deleted all of my personal social media back in February. My Instagram, everything I had left that sort of was me on the internet, and my Twitter that I'd had from like 2009. So making a new Twitter was interesting, but it was really good and nice, because you talk about the interactions with people. This community. I mean, we know there are a bunch of different Twitters out there. The way people want to interact with each other, but on the whole, NFT Twitter is really lovely. People looking out for each other, people caring. And it's also I found it a really unique opportunity to meet people from all over the world. Like I was just talking about CryptoPet, this Thai artist earlier. People are doing amazing things all over the world that you wouldn't get to interact with usually. So I'm very keen to respond to people. I'm very keen to follow people. I just love it. This small little community that we're building here that resides on Twitter mainly, where we interact with each other, is really special. And I don't know if you saw last week, maybe it was a week and a half ago now, time moves so quickly in the NFT space, where Nate Chastain from OpenSea was figured out for buying projects before all that other stuff.
Trading.
It was insider trading, insider trading, it's obviously confirmed on the blockchain. It was another example of how the community not so much handles drama, but sort of rallies around, what we find interesting in the space. Someone just off their own back went out, figured that out, went through all the blockchain transactions, and then just went, hey, OpenSea, what's going on here? And it got a huge amount of traction, because people in the community care about that. They care. It's the whole point of the NFT community. It's the whole point of crypto is for things to be, for the blockchain to be trustless and immutable, and so people need to be held accountable for things that are wrong. And it can feel a bit pitchforky at times, don't get me wrong, because sometimes people don't have time to defend themselves, but you don't see that in regular markets. No one's, even if people do call each other out, no one's coming to rally behind trying to find the truth, which is what I appreciate. People, that Spaces that night had like 3,000 people in it. Everyone in the NFT community was there listening to what was happening, just trying to figure out what's going on, because we're all just growing, learning as things change. And that's what I appreciate, how tight knit we've all become in such a short space of time.
Yeah, I mean, when there is the ability to have more transparency, I think this is sort of the natural course of things, right? Because like with stock markets and other sort of like Forex trading, it's really hard to get any sort of transparency and therefore accountability. You have to kind of rely on news media and the who's of who's. Um, with blockchain, it's very transparent if you know how to read it. And then if you don't know how to read it, there are so many tutorials on YouTube. So it's really up to the individual. Um, what were some of your biggest lessons learned? Because I think I saw a tweet where you said you paper handed some of your earlier NFTs.
Yeah. So I actually paper handed my first two cats. Um,
Oh,
which is a hard story, but it's all part of the learning process, which I'm very happy
tuition.
to.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's and I say this a lot, and I genuinely mean it. But the NFT space can be a baptism by fire sometimes, and especially for new people being onboarded, especially if you make your mistakes initially, it can turn you off to the entire thing. But yeah, so originally, I mean, I follow very closely, the Ethereum and Bitcoin charts, and it's another thing that I'm genuinely fascinated in, that we will see unfurl in the next. We just need more data on it. What I'm trying to get at here is the way that the Ethereum price affects the NFT prices,
Yes.
and that's something that we're seeing now because we're in a small downtrend. Whether you believe it's an ABC correction and we're going to 100K is different point. But I saw on the initial dump from probably about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, on the initial dump down, I sold my NFTs because I thought that we were going
Oh,
into a
you
long-term bear
panicked.
market. I panicked. I thought we were going into a long-term bear market, and I wanted to get the money out of my NFTs at that exact point, because I thought, okay, if I can get the money out and I can hold the spending power I have will be greater. So that if we do enter an NFT bear market, I can buy up those projects that I want to buy up,
Are you talking
at a
about back
cheap
in
price.
May when everything crashed?
Uh,
Because I'm
yeah,
looking
I
at the
think,
chart right now, and that was the biggest crash was like May 15th through like the 20th.
yeah. So
Yeah.
let me have a look here. Yeah, it would have been. It would have been then.
Okay. That was like
And
NFT bear market. Yeah.
NFT bear market, yeah. And I just sort of, I just sort of thought, okay, well, I've made an awful lot of money. And this is the thing with NFTs, it's unrealized gain until it is realized. And so I was like, I've made a lot of money here. I'm bullish, more bullish on I'm so bullish on ETH long term, and I was just
Mhm.
bearish on NFT short term. And I thought
Right.
that by actualizing that profit, I could buy up, like maybe 4 or 5 cool cats, because I thought the price would go down because people would be selling them. And it was I'm really glad that I did it and I went through it. And I feel bad because I was such an active person in the Cool Cats Discord, and then I did it without telling anyone, and people saw both of my cats that were very well known go through the sales bot channel. I took, were ETH offers for them, or WETH offers, wrapped ETH offers, whatever you want to call it, for them. And so people were like, did your account get hacked? What's happened here? And I felt terrible because I'd spurned a community. It looked like I'd spurned a community that had been so loving and open to me. But really, my idea was that I wanted to end up buying more cats for a
Right.
lower price. But going into a positive Discord and being like, hey, I think we're going into an NFT bear market, and this is why I'm selling my cats, because I want to buy more cats. It's hard to.
You don't have to justify that. And that's something I kind of disagree with in the discords is when people get shamed for selling their cats. I'm like, you guys realize we would have zero trading volume if nobody ever sold.
Mhm.
Like you can set the floor or you can set your cat price as high as you want, but that doesn't mean that it's ever going to sell. And so I completely get where you're coming from. A lot of people panicked. And when you panic, you want to go for the liquidity, right? Um, I didn't have
Yeah,
NFTs at the time, so I could say like, oh, if I were you, I would have done XYZ, but like who knows, right? And that goes for a lot of people. Um,
and the reason why I tweeted about it, and the reason I tweeted about, we had this recent dump in the market, and I immediately tweeted, I was like, if you're new to NFTs, please consider not paper handing your NFTs during this time. And I say that as someone who did this exact same thing two months ago. And I'm so happy. It's not that I feel like everyone needs to go through it,
yeah.
in order to understand where you stand. Like, this cat that you're looking at here now, he's not for sale, and I'm getting him tattooed in a week's time
Oh,
on my
wow.
body. You know, it's a one of those things. I just aren't. But you have to go through the ups and downs, the trial by fire, to understand where you sit in the market. And right
Mhm.
now, what I paid for that cat, I'm more than willing to throw away in the bin so I can own it for the rest of my life. You know, and I think that that's where the pure love for NFTs comes. You know, maybe if he's worth $2-3 million in the future, I'll consider it. But it's
Yeah.
a
You can always buy more
if you
cats.
you can always buy more cats. And it came full circle, you know, my short-term NFT journey from buying into NFTs, a lot of them mooning, selling out because I thought that it was going to dump, and then buying back in for a bit more than I had to come through, is something that is completely normal, should be actualized. Selling your cat, selling anything, selling an NFT. And going back to what you're saying as well, like people who post those pictures of people selling for a 1 ETH loss, you know,
Mhm.
it's hard, but at the same time, you can't pretend to understand what that person behind that screen is
Exactly.
doing, or the financial struggles they might be in.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that we need to work on less shaming.
Yeah. Plus tax implications. There are so many people who still don't really understand the tax implications of these NFTs, plus the ongoing like battle at the SEC on, are these securities? Are they not? Are we going to have the power to regulate them? I mean, that's definitely on the back of a lot of people's minds, you know? Um, I personally do not know where this is all going to go, but I have a feeling that they're going to try and regulate these, and they're definitely going to try and go after the what is it, the revenue sharing models on some of these NFTs. Like there's a few that share their royalties with, you know, every secondary sale to the holder, and then there's others that give you tokens like cyberkongs, right? They give you X amount of bananas for holding your Kong per day. And these bananas, they fluctuate around $13. So if you held it in a year, you're getting a substantial capital gains income, passive income. So you never really know how this is going to turn out for people and what their situations are, just to kind of go off what you said. Um, I definitely agree that I think everyone does have to pay tuition at some point, whether it's with shitcoins or paper handling your NFTs, blue chips. Um, but it's nothing to really be ashamed of, you know, like as a community,
No,
we
not
can
at
do
all.
better.
Yeah, not
Um,
at all. It's absolutely nothing to be ashamed about. It's all part of learning, all part of the learning process. And you know, this goes back to the age old people only post their wins on Twitter. You
yes,
know,
yeah,
it's so one-sided sometimes. You know, we've all taken losses, we've all taken hits, and
yes.
we need to know that it's just part and parcel of how of learning how to interact in this space. I'd really like to just quickly talk about the Creatures NFT project,
Yeah, I
which
was
is
gonna
something
ask you
that
too, like your favorite projects from underrated NFTs. Go for it.
yeah, the Creatures project is something that I find really special. I'm not affiliated with it in any way. I'm just a huge fan.
Mhm.
And Danny Cole, if you're not aware, for the people listening, Danny Cole is a young artist from New York who draws these creatures that he's been working on for a terribly long time, drawing since he was a kid. He says that he draws uh, creatures in the creature world in a far off world, and it's one of the first projects I've seen that really resonates with me on an artistic side. I mean, obviously there's some fantastic artists going on across this whole space, but this one was just something really special. And I tweeted out something. I said I likened this sort of work that Danny's doing to being an American legend at some point, you know, along with names like Andy Warhol and Keith Haring and Jean-Michel Basquiat. You know, like I see him being something really special. The same, I feel the same way about Vinny Hager, who's another cool cat. He's doing some amazing stuff as well. But this was one of the first times I looked at something and I was like, blimey, you know, this is something special. And then to add that with the blockchain, with NFTs, I'm so long-term bullish on it. It's also got one of the most amazing unique holder counts. It's well over 5,000.
Mhm.
And I just think that there's just something special to come from there. And I think all you need to do is just go and take a look at these creatures. It's called Creature World NFT. And I think that'll be something special in the future. I'm really really keen to get myself a canvas or something with mine on.
How did you find
Yeah.
it?
I found it through a Twitter user called Danny Ukes. I don't know if you know who he is.
Mm-mm.
He's quite a vocal guy in the NFT space, and I'm a big fan of his, and I think he's friends, or he's part of a group of friends with Danny, and they were one of the first people to do a really interesting way of dropping the NFT, because I actually managed to mint 3 of them. It was a pretty crazy gas war, but basically they were one of the first people to open up a Discord like 4 to 6 weeks before the NFT even dropped. They built a community around this Discord. I think there was about 20,000 people in the Discord by the time they did drop. And so yeah, so when we went to then mint, you actually had to play a game and solve it. You went to the minting page, landing page, you had to play a game and collect a bunch of different fruits for these creatures that are asking you, and it's like a full-on like interactive JavaScript game. And then you end up ascending up the rainbow, which then gives you the contract address so you could mint. So there was an interactive element to it, which was made to avoid gas wars. But it was super cool. Like, you actually played a full-on game to then, once you finish the game, they then gave you the contact address to mint it. And I was super lucky. I think I got creatures 9, 9, 9, 6, 7, and 8 or something. I was like 10 or 20 creatures away from paying a hefty gas fee. But yeah,
Oh,
so
wow.
I mean, it's really something special, and it's more. I mean, obviously the art is lovely, but I'm more uber bullish on Danny Cole. This guy is someone who is going to be a fantastic. I mean, he's already a fantastic. He's going to be a household name, whether that be in 1 year or 10 years. Um, loads of it. I mean, you also hear Gary Vee talking about it. He bought in on the first day. He bought about 10 or 15. There's actually, I watched a podcast with him where he was talking about how long-term bullish he is on Danny as well. This is someone who is the next big thing. Anyway, I don't know if I could have sold it harder than that.
Yeah, you maybe try a little harder next time. I wasn't convinced.
Maybe try a little harder. I'm not trying to put my money bags, I promise. I just
yeah. I should have introduced you as the creature shower. I'm just kidding. So I'm actually sharing my screen. I'm looking at Creature World NFTs right now, and they have actually hit their all-time highs since releasing basically about a couple months ago, not even a month and a half.
Yeah, a month ago. I mean, the floor went to 2.2, I think, or 2.5 or something originally, and now it's been for the last, as you see, over the last sort of 2-3 weeks. It's sort of 2 weeks, I think. It always seems longer in NFTs, but last 2 weeks it sort of fluctuated between 1.4 and sort of 0.9, and now it's really starting to get some traction. But I mean, just look at the unique holds there. 5.3 thousand unique holders is really crazy for a project like this.
I actually did see this just come out of nowhere. Seemingly, it exploded on my feed, and I think I saw Gary Vee mentioning it a couple times. But I just wasn't sure what this thing was, and aesthetically it's not really my style, so I wasn't immediately kind of interested in researching more like I was with cats, right? Like, I'm a natural cat person. This style is definitely a little different from the usual aesthetics that I'm drawn to, but looking at their, let's see, highest last sales, this has done extremely well, and I wish I'd gotten in earlier or gotten them at all, honestly. I checked out his Instagram yesterday after you had mentioned him, and I was surprised that he actually painted like this giant cow and put it over the O and the Hollywood sign. And
yeah.
Did he get arrested? Because they said 3 people got arrested.
He did, yeah. He got arrested after doing it. If you go anywhere near the Hollywood sign, they come and arrest you.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that just proves who he is as a person. So I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, maybe. It's such a cool guerrilla art project. And stuff like that. It reminds me of like Shepard Fairey, the guy who created Obey, and Banksy, and some of these other like more street artists that have moved into other spaces. And I know it's not necessarily everyone's style, but it's just something about it. It's just something special about it. Another really cool thing that happened was when everything dropped, everyone was like, when's the rarity coming out? When are you going to release the metadata so that we can start pricing these properly? And about 2 or 3 days in, Danny came out. He was like, there's not going to be any. Stop asking. It's done. They're all individual. They're all individually beautiful in their own way. And yeah, there's some traits that are only on 0.73%, but I'm not going to rank them. I'm not submitting it to Rarity Tools. I'm not putting it on Rarity Sniper. It's not happening. And I really, really like that. I thought it was really, really ballsy. And the rest of the community was like, cool.
They're like, okay, we'll take it. Yeah, honestly, the rarity thing has gotten tiring for me.
For sure.
So I'm like, it's artificial scarcity. And yes, I understand that a lot of art in general is artificial scarcity, but when you make it gamified as Rarity Sniper has been, it just kind of feels just disingenuous to a point. But what are some hints or tips that you have for finding really cool upcoming and undervalued projects and getting in early?
Yeah, that's a great question. I find that following interesting people on Twitter has been the best thing for me. I think a lot of people can worry about their follow accounts, this, that, and the other. And I just, if someone follows me and I look at their page and they're passionate about NFTs, I'll follow them back. And that's how I find the majority of my projects. So that'll be the initial part. I look on Twitter, people post things, people are like, oh, I'm really interested in this project. This one's just come out. I find an awful lot of stuff through other cats as well, because I find that is a good marker of potential value. And then when I go into the project, I'll be checking a few different metrics, and the initial metric is always how many holders they have. Then that's the one I look at immediately, especially a lot of these things that have minted didn't sell out immediately. You can see there's quite a lot of whales involved, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but you just need to know that if you're buying cheap on a project that has 1,200 holders or under 1,000 holders, you're probably going to have to hold that for a while, and people are going to have to do some shilling in order to get that follow count up, because until you stop people dumping and undercutting the floor, we're not going to have any individual price action. So that's a huge metric for me. I also look at the activity, sales activity, like you were just showing there on OpenSea, sales activity on OpenSea. And then I will, another third part of it, I will go to Rarity Tools if it's on Rarity Tools, and I will I'll put in my budget and look at what the rarest thing I can get for. And then I don't always do that, because sometimes it's better to just buy up 3 of the floor than 1 rare. But I think it's also an important part, because although it's not necessarily something that I care about in the grander scheme of things, it's something that people pay money for. So it's something that you should be looking at or thinking about, at least considering.
Yeah. Do you ever use analytics websites like floors.cafe or anything?
Yeah, I like floors.cafe, but mainly I just do it manually. And I'm not claiming to be the best NFT trader in the world. Absolutely not. Definitely in the lower tiers.
What? You lied to me? I'm just kidding.
No, but I think that the key thing, the overarching sentiment I want to get across is that this can all be overwhelming to the new people getting into the NFT space. And you can often feel like you're only taking L's when everyone else is taking wins. And it's just not true. And I think that my one piece of advice, overwhelming advice, is just to stick it out, remain cautious and stick it out, and just to learn. Every single day I'm trying to follow more people, to learn more about the space, to learn more what's coming up next, to interact, and interacting is another huge part. Interacting on Twitter, responding to people, replying to people. The amount of interesting stuff I've had through my DMs or people reaching out just because I've interacted or replied back to them is huge. And this is the community we're all building here. Like you talked about how you and I got to know each other and met through Twitter. I now know you, you now know me, and we're now in the NFT space together, and we can lean on each other for advice and information, and whatever you think is important, whatever I think is important, we'll be interacting with each other. And that is what is digital gold to me, the interaction here. This is how we riff off each other and make our money.
That sounds like it's kind of one of your goals in this whole NFT space.
Absolutely, yeah. And this is why I'm so excited for. I don't actually have a ticket for NFT New York, but I'm definitely planning on going for the week, because there's a lot of unofficial stuff that's going on. People meeting up in bars, and this is where the next generational wealth is going to come from. This is, people talk about this being like the .com boom. This being like when the internet was created, and it's very true. And like Gary Vee is another great resource for things like this, because he tweets all the time. And he's like, hey, look, I was around in the .com boom. I made my money during the .com boom. This is the same.
Yeah.
someone like that who says something like that, I listen. And
You
so
don't ignore
we have
that.
a
Yeah.
yeah, we have a unique opportunity now to get to know each other in this space. And that is what's going to be priceless in the future. I mean, you mentioned Farouk earlier, and he's friends with John Knopf and some of these other people. They have built these tiny communities on Clubhouse that are now running, controlling markets. And whether you believe that that's ethical or not, it's happening and it's real, and they're making real money. And so, and that's just by friends looking after friends, looking out for each other, getting on spaces, talking to each other, trading NFTs with each other, bringing more eyes to the space. Our
Yeah.
greatest asset is each other.
I agree. Well said. Well said. Yeah, I think that's also one of my goals and funnest parts of the NFT space is being able to meet people and, kind of like connect with them like we're doing right now. Especially after a year and a half of the pandemic and not really being able to interface and network as much. This is kind of like the outlet, right? And then participate in one of the greatest generational wealth transfers of our time period. Are you going to the Cool Cats meetup in LA October 10th?
I am, absolutely. And
Yes.
huge shout out to the guys who put that together, Kevin F and the whole crew. Just huge. I mean, they've done an amazing job at finding a space and making it family friendly and during the day. And I'm very excited to meet up with some other cats, and do exactly what we're talking about here.
Yes, absolutely. I'm definitely going. And then I also
Cool.
want to go eventually to one of those like New York meetup spaces too, but hopefully it'll happen more often in LA and then kind of like hop off of that and go to New York, but we'll see. Was there anything else that you wanted to mention?
No, I mean, the last thing I'd like to mention is, this is a crazy time to be alive, to be making money,
Yeah.
and I think that it's important to one of the most important things I figured out in the last few months is to realize that you're doing good by being here. You're doing good already by being here, and these huge Twitter accounts, it can just seem unbelievably overwhelming. You're like, how do you have 6 apes and 4 punks?
Right.
And it's like, it's just nuts. And the one thing I just really want to get across, if anyone's listening, is that we're all going to make it. We really are all going to make it. We're here early enough for WAGMI. We're all here early enough to get things done. And even if you don't own a cat, even if you don't own a single NFT yet, or you're thinking about buying one, the next 1000X came out today. It's coming out tomorrow. It's coming out 3 days from now. So don't worry, don't compare yourself to others. By being here, by learning, by getting to know each other, we're all going to be successful. So yeah, just hope for more people to join. And I want to say thank you so much to you as well for chatting to me, and thanks for all you do for the community. And it's been lovely.
Thank you so much for taking the time and come on my channel and talk to a complete stranger. But yeah, definitely
Not anymore.
Right, not anymore. And after the meetup, definitely not. Definitely check out Ted Lasso's Twitter account. I will be posting it in the comments below. And yeah, make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, share, do all the little things that make this algorithm work. And yeah, I will catch you in the next one.